Jolicoeur. Welcome to my show, Let's Talk About History. I'm here today with Norwich's historian, Dale Plummer. Thank you, Dale, for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
There's been an update on the Reid Hughes building, and last Wednesday, you were in Hartford at Constitution Plaza.
That's correct.
And you brought signatures and an appeal to prevent the demolition of the Reid Hughes building. Can you tell me how it went?
Well, it went
in Hartford?
Sure, I'll be happy to. It went very well. The meeting was the meeting of the State Historic Preservation Council. And basically what we did as Norwich Heritage Trust was to ask the council to intervene in the situation of Reid Hughes building where the city council has voted to demolish the building. The state statute provides that one can actually sue to prevent the unreasonable demolition of an historic building. And in this case, the Reid Hughes is without question historic. It's listed on the National Register and the State Register of Historic Places. And the big question is whether or not it's a reasonable thing to demolish the building. Now with us, we brought about 600 names who had signed our petition for asking the state, in fact, to step in and prevent this demolition. And we also had testimony from Jim Grant, a structural engineer from the Connecticut Trust for Historic Preservation, the Norwich Historical Society, and others. And I think and Betsy Crum from the Women's Institute, and I think we were able to demonstrate to the satisfaction of the Historic Preservation Council that there is a reasonable alternative to demolition. The city does not have to demolish this building. We have a developer who has all the qualifications and experience necessary to restore this building, put it back into use, not as a department store, but for apartments, storefront, and so forth.
Mm-hmm. So were you successful with your appeal in Hartford?
Yes, the State Historic Preservation Council voted unanimously to refer this matter to the Attorney General's office. The Attorney General will be, and is in fact right now, working on taking the steps necessary to halt the impending demolition of the building.
Congratulations.
Well, it's only congratulations if our goal is to see this building restored. This is a first step on the way. What we really need is the cooperation of the owner of the Reid Hughes building, which is the city of Norwich. You know, the city can go a long way towards helping this to happen and helping it. The more they cooperate, the more they partner with the developer, the faster this can happen and the faster we can turn this around.
What would you like to happen to the Reid Hughes building? Apartments?
Well, a number of different people have looked at it over the years. It's been the subject of a feasibility study that was funded by the city and by the Connecticut Trust for Historic Preservation. And the conclusion has been that the best use of the building is for housing, to repurpose it or reuse it for housing. There are a lot of advantages to that. About 20 units of housing can be put into the building, and that would leave the first floor open for, say, a restaurant or other use. We even have a local restaurateur interested. In
Yes, you brought some pictures. Is this a picture of what you would like the apartments for the construction to look like?
This is, yes, this is Bill Krosky, the architect who's been working with Betsy Crum.
So that's who the contractors would be for the Reid Hughes building if you're successful in having the development of the Reid Hughes building.
The developer would be, in fact, the Women's Institute for Housing and Economic Development.
Mm-hmm.
They're based out of Hartford. Betsy Crum is the executive director. Bill Krosky would be the architect, and this is his concept of what the building would look like once restored.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, you know, the very best solution from everyone's point of view here is to take what is now an eyesore and turn it into, you know, a beautiful building once again. If we tear it down, all we get is a hole in the ground that the city has to maintain. They have to grade it. They have to, you know, do all kinds of things to it, and it doesn't yield taxes.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you could find someone to buy the lot and put in parking, it would yield very few taxes, a few $100s a year as opposed to thousands a year. So the best solution is to reuse the building where it is, repurpose it for housing and for a retail storefront. The Women's Institute would pay taxes on it, even though they're nonprofit. Housing, which produces income, is subject to taxation, and they have no problem with that. So it's a good solution.
As far as historic preservation, I know that at one of the city council meetings, one of the city council members said, well, why don't we completely knock it down, and it would cost the city an outrageous amount of money
Right.
to have it demolished, and if we rebuild or have a park there, we can start from a clean slate. I had to disagree with her because, you know, as far as historic preservation, why not save the facade or you know, just, we can still build there with some of the structure that's left there.
Well, in fact, the best thing to do is to use the entire building. The interior of the building, that is there's not much left of it, but a developer can use the 4 brick walls and basically build what is in effect a new building inside those. The advantage to reusing the historic building with the facade and with the exterior walls is that you get up to 50% of your cost in historic tax credits, both state and federal. So for instance, this project would cost close to $6 million, but $3 million of that would be in the tax credits for historic preservation. Your problem in tearing it down and building a new building is that you don't have the tax credits available. So say you spend $6 million on a new building, you've got to find all of the $6 million. With the historic tax credits, you only have, you know, you basically have that. So that is money that is coming into the city of Norwich. So demolishing the building actually is like throwing away, say, $2.5 to $3 million in addition to the 800,000 plus. So we're talking about it does not make sense to spend that much money to demolish it and get nothing in return. It is very unlikely that a new building would go in there. And I'll just cite the fact that we have the lot where Chelsea Groton tore down 3 houses. Nothing has ever gone up there. The lot where the old soup kitchen used to be on Main Street, that's still vacant. There are vacant lots all over the downtown. Nothing has gone up in them, and for the most part, those vacant lots would be easier to build on than the spot where Reid Hughes is, because the Reid Hughes is so locked in by the other buildings. So your best way to do anything is to reuse the historic building and take advantage of the tax credits. And you know, if we don't use those tax credits, some other town does. You know, if we don't use the available grants and monies that are out there for historic buildings, we're basically not doing ourselves any favor at all. You know, we're falling behind. So we're actually in a good position with this building to reuse it.
What would be your next step in your process for preventing the demolition of the Reid Hughes building?
Well, the next step is really up to the Attorney General's office. The Attorney General will, if need be, seek an injunction to stop the demolition.
Do you know how long that might take? An answer from the Attorney General's office?
Oh, it will be very quick. It will be probably within a week or so.
Oh my goodness, that's wonderful.
Well,
Yeah.
they have to, because there's a delay of demolition ordinance that
Yeah.
lasts for 60 days.
Oh,
So the building can be torn down any time after the 17th of December.
great.
So
That's
they
good
have to act
news.
quickly.
That's good news. Yeah.
The next stage beyond that
Uh-huh.
will be to stabilize the building to prevent it from deteriorating further.
Mm-hmm.
And there we have an individual, Bill Morse, a developer from New London, who has stepped forward and offered to put $200,000 into the building.
Oh my goodness.
So, one of the
Wow.
complaints about the city, or that the city had about developers is, well, no one's willing to put any money up front. Well, here's a man who is willing to risk $200,000,
Yeah.
and the city would be very foolish not to take
Wow.
advantage of that offer.
Yep. So there is. Oh, gee, that's wonderful news.
It's great news.
After so many people had read in the newspaper that the city council had agreed to demolish the Reid Hughes building, Dale Plummer went to Hartford with signatures, and that's
Well, not just me. It was the
yeah,
Norwich
the
Heritage
Norwich
Trust.
Heritage Trust. There were also others from the
Yes.
Norwich Heritage Trust that went to Hartford and made an appeal. So it looks as though what the city council had voted on to demolish the Reid Hughes building is going to be reversed. So when is the next city council meeting going to be regarding the Reid Hughes building?
We don't know. The next meeting is December 19th. That's this coming Monday. We don't know if it's going to be on the agenda or not. We'll find out today or tomorrow. This is Wednesday. It'll come out by Thursday. We'll know certainly before the weekend is out. We plan to have our members attend and speak during the public hearing and ask that the City Council reconsider their vote to demolish the building. They may not have any choice anyways, but I think, wouldn't it be better if the council bowed to the state and said,
Yes.
look, okay, we
Yeah.
will relent.
Yeah.
So the stabilization will take some time, but the basic reason it needs to be stabilized is to allow time for Betsy Crum to put together the funding package. That's a complex thing. It requires a number of different agencies, permits, so forth. So it could take a year. It might even take more. But they have done this before in other places, Willimantic, Jewett City, Hartford, I think Middletown. I think they have done 30 projects plus. So, and in some of them, buildings
Quite a
in
few,
worse shape.
so they know what goes into this type of job.
Yes, they're very familiar
Yes,
with it,
yes.
which is what gives us a lot
That's
of hope.
wonderful. That's wonderful.
So for instance, they took where the American Legion is in Jewett City, they revamped that, they put in housing. I think there are 18 units there. American Legion has their own facility in the building and continues to own it. And with Reid Hughes, they have already talked to the Veterans Affairs or Veterans Administration, who has said they will take at least 10 of the 20 units in Reid Hughes for veterans. What better thing for people who have risked their lives for our country than to have really good, decent apartments downtown?
I agree. I definitely.
You know, it's near the city hall, the
And
library, the post
for
office.
historic preservation also, you know, the importance of saving an old building.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and I think, you know, that there's something really wonderful about being in a restored old building. I live in the Warwigan Hotel that I helped to save. And that whole effort to save the Warwigan was very similar to what is happening now with Reid and Hughes. The Warwigan was in similar condition, probably worse actually. You know, the back of the building had collapsed. The hotel lobby floor had collapsed into the basement. You know, the corner where my apartment is had cracks in it, and the city had to put, you know, wrap steel cables around it to hold it together. And yet, it was capable of being restored, and they have done an absolutely superb job. In fact,
What you have here.
they have a
picture. Would you like to put that right here?
just put this in front.
Yeah.
Here is the Warwigan Hotel.
Yeah.
And those of your viewers who, you know, remember the Warwigan Hotel before the restoration, you know, all the ornamentation had been stripped off. It was just basically a bare brick cube. And the developer was able to look at that and say, this building can be brought back. We can put back those things that are missing and make it look as it did when Abraham Lincoln stayed there. Reid and Hughes actually has more of the original facade of the building left. There's more to deal with than the Warwigan had. So how much better is that?
Oh, I agree.
Of course, I have a personal feeling for Reid and Hughes. For one thing, I live right across the street. I look out from my apartment every day and see the building. And, you know, so do other people. And, you know, Dan Topalis at the Warwigan Art Gallery. One thing we found is that people in town really do care about this building. You know, they shopped there when they were kids.
There are memories.
There are memories. Their parents or their grandparents or their aunts and uncles worked there or shopped there. You know,
I did.
Yes, exactly. You could get, you know, nice clothes, stuff like you're wearing right now at Reid and Hughes.
It was in high school. My friends who lived on the west side, they did a lot of shopping at Reid and Hughes.
Yes,
It was close by, and it for us who lived out in the country a little bit more, not so close to the city, it was a treat to go to the Reid and Hughes building.
Oh, yes.
You know, because they had nice perfumes and, you know, take the bus to Norwich or go with your friends. And but it wasn't until 83 or 84. I remember going to the Reid and Hughes building in 1983 and doing Christmas shopping. So.
Yes, yeah, it wasn't that long
Yeah, and it was
ago.
still a beautiful store.
Exactly.
Yeah, so
Unfortunately,
it was pretty sudden that this all came about, demolishing the building, and people were pretty surprised
I think so.
to see it go.
And of
So
course,
I think a lot of people will applaud you and be happy with your efforts.
yes. I think, you know, the thing is that we can't bring back the store itself because the day of the downtown department store, I'm afraid, is gone. The big box stores like Walmart's and so forth have taken over that. But we can save the building and the memories. We can see the wonderful, really the facade of the building is in very good condition. The engineer, Jim Grant, said, you know, it's amazing how well preserved that metalwork on the building is. There's really very little deterioration, and it's all fixable.
What does it date back to?
Well, originally there was a building called Apollo Hall on the site. It burned down in 1869, and they built a new building right afterwards, and that's the current Reid and Hughes.
About what year?
Around 1869.
Right after the Civil War.
Right after the Civil War. We have photographs of the presidential campaign. I think it was Grant's second campaign, where the 1872, that shows a President Grant banner being stretched across the street, anchored at one point on Reid and Hughes, and I think on the Warregan across the street. So it was a landmark for years. And it was remodeled in 1898. And what they did was they actually took the old facade, parts of that, and put it on the addition on the building. And then they put what was then a modern storefront, but quite attractive, on the older section. I'm kind of proud that my own family was involved with Reid and Hughes. My Scottish great-grandfather, John Littlejohn, came from Scotland in 1885 to work for Reid and Hughes.
Oh my goodness.
So my own family has a history with that building. In fact, we have a great story. In 1888, there was a huge flood. The river in back of Reid and Hughes, the Chautauqua River, rose up, and my great-grandfather stood at the back of Reid and Hughes, wrote his name and address on a piece of wood, and asked the finder to return it to him, threw it into the flood. And some months later, someone from Fisher's Island contacted him. His piece of wood with his name on it had come ashore on Fisher's Island. They made arrangements, and he recovered the piece of wood.
Oh my
And he said he'd never.
How long after that he threw it in the water?
Several months. It was pretty fast.
My goodness, that's. I've heard of people putting a note in a bottle and putting it, in the ocean, but gee, that's amazing.
Yeah,
Fisher's Island.
Pretty neat.
Just kind of floated down.
It flowed down the river and across the
Thames
sound.
River.
Yes. Yeah.
Gee, and made its way to Fisher's Island.
That's right.
Huh.
Well, people used to, and they still do, they beachcomb, they walk along the beach and
Yeah.
they pick up
And
things.
for somebody to find that and pick it up and read it. And
Yeah, it's a nice
that's
story.
wonderful, yeah.
We don't know what happened to it, though.
No.
He said he'd never give it up,
Yeah.
but and no one I know of in the family has it, so maybe someone threw it out.
Yeah.
It'd be too bad.
Yeah.
But so Reid and Hughes has some very fond memories.
Mm.
And the other thing is that when you look at that whole section downtown, it's a continuous band or facade of buildings that stretches around that corner.
Yeah, it's kind of unsightly.
Right now.
Yes,
But once
and it
it's
would
done-
be nice to, people that come into Norwich, especially from out of town, and that come to visit the casinos, Mohegan Sun and the Foxwoods. It's kind of embarrassing that something hasn't been done to that building yet.
Well,
I mean, when you
true.
think of people that come from out of state, you have people coming from Massachusetts and Rhode Island and New York. And if people are walking in the city, maybe to, stop somewhere for a coffee or,
Right.
and they pass this building, it would be nice.
It'll be wonderful when it's
It
done.
would.
It will build on the work that's already been done on the Warregan. Now you'll have the Warregan and the Reid and Hughes on opposite sides of the street. The Shannon building was redone very nicely and restored. So you have a whole little block of restored buildings right near each other.
The Flatiron Building has been restored.
Right.
It's on the other end of town.
Right.
They did a beautiful job finishing that.
Right, so it all is, can work together very nicely and produce a good result. The other thing is that, the city acquired the building in 1993, 23 years ago. But there was a problem with their being able to do anything with it, and that was that they didn't own the land underneath the back of the building. That was owned by the Lord family. Ed Lord actually owned it. So they had to have a legal action, a lawsuit, which was finally settled out of court, but it took them 15 years. So it's only been really, they've only been able to really do much with it since 2008. It's not like it's gone fallow all that time.
So if people that are watching would like to show their support, how do you think, come to the city council meetings,
Yes.
write a letter to the editor in favor of Dale Plummer's efforts to save the building?
Let's not say Dale Plummer, because it's not just me.
Norwich Heritage, there's
Norwich
many
Heritage
people that
Trust.
are in favor of.
And you've been one of our big supporters,
Thank
and we
you.
appreciate that so much. But yes, you're right. Coming to city council meetings, speaking in the public comment section, contacting your councilors or the mayor, on your own through email or letter or phone call. The petitions were a great thing. The letters to the editor, to be truthful, I don't know if the Bulletin has ever had so many letters on a specific thing. You wrote one yourself, which is
I wrote
much
a couple.
appreciated.
Yeah.
But it does make a difference. People can really, this is a wonderful way for people to get involved in their community
Yes.
and see something positive happen.
Yes, I agree. All right, thank you, Dale. And I wish you much success in your endeavors, especially with the Reid Hughes building. And I'll have to invite you back so we can
Sure.
get another update on the Reid Hughes building. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.